welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and this is another installment of an average gamer's guide to Total War Rome 2. Now, I'm going to be calling this one Province Management Part 3, but it's relatively speaking just kind of understanding a campaign map as well. So, if you haven't seen already, I have Province Management Part 1 and 2 up already, and they have done fairly well, so they think there's some good information in those. And this is going to be touching on some of the smaller stuff that maybe people haven't noticed, even maybe some of you Total War experts out there might have just skipped over and never really touched on in the UI. So hopefully I got some little tidbits to help sort you guys out and give you a little more of a leg up against your legendary competition. Anyways, let's jump right on into it. So, first thing I'm going to touch on is understanding Imperium. Now, some of the newer players haven't really understood Imperium. They ask about what is army limits and the fleet limits, and how do I understand all this? Now, the simple thing to understand is once you go into your little tab right here, which you find here, Faction, and you will see it says Imperium. Now, Imperium is, as it says, is a measure of your faction's power. It increases your ability to control military forces, agents, and issue more edicts across your domain. Now, the way that you increase your Imperium is by conquering territories, winning victories, completing missions, and just owning wonders, that kind of stuff. So basically just being bigger, grander, and more powerful than you were a couple turns before. And the more you do this, the game measures it, and then it adds to your Imperium. This is not something that it will slowly tick up, and once you hit each bar, then it will upgrade you. At least I believe so, because I've gotten one campaign to where I got to here, and I got an extra upgrade. So I'm assuming it goes by those bars, but I could be 100% totally wrong. Anyways, so it upgrades how many armies you can have, how many fleets you can have, dignitary, spies, champions, here you go, and then obviously how many edicts you have. So if you have a certain amount of provinces controlled, you can only do so many edicts in so many, or you can only do so many province edicts. So if I have 5 provinces, I'm only able to do edicts in 2 of my 5 provinces that I own, okay? It's pretty simple stuff, pretty easy to understand. Of course, there's actually a really good panel for trying to understand in general where you want to lean towards. One of the things that I would like to point out is the fact that, I'm playing Pontus. So my Persian trade heritage, I get plus 10% wealth from all commerce buildings. So for myself, if I'm feeling a little bit on the short side, maybe I want to lean towards more commerce buildings rather than some of the civics buildings or something like that that would produce tax income. So that's just something to look at, again, to plan ahead, because when you're looking at your provinces and stuff, you want to go ahead and learn how to plan ahead. Also, one of the things I'm going to go over here is we're going to look at the details menu for the provinces. So this is something that I don't think a whole lot of people have touched on. This is the general menu that most people look at, because this is just the one you get when you click on stuff. But if you click at this little button down here, it'll give you the details. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. You have this little button up here that allows you to tax and untax a province, okay? And if you look down here, you can see it change immediately, and you'll also notice that it changes the food. Now the food becomes interesting because if you hover over it, it'll tell you that when you exempt this province, now this is the entire province, so since I'm clicking on this is the entire province of this one, this one, this one, and this one. I'm not exempting just this region, I'm exempting the entire province, okay? So when you exempt this province, you no longer gain any income. But in exchange, there's no negative public order effects when it comes to taxation, and they also are completely removed when it comes to the food systems. They no longer supply food or consume food. They're completely self-sufficient. So any food that is created inside this province has to be able to support the needs of this province when you put it on no taxation. So again, let's go ahead and watch that again. So if I don't tax it, you'll see that it's at 19 food, and if I do tax it, takes 8 food, because most of my food is produced outside this province, and I go ahead and I take it away. And then you'll also notice that my predicted public order goes up because of the fact that I don't have to worry about my taxation. Alright, so when it comes to understanding exactly how wealth and income is done in the game, all you have to understand is that this entire total here is your entire collected provincial wealth. So this is for each individual region, but when it's totaled together, that's your total provincial wealth, which you can find over here. So you can find, again, the same panel right here, but this one's broken down. And what ends up happening is you have these 3 factors. So 12% plus 11.4% minus 10%. So that's going to leave you with 13.4%. So they take this grand old total, which you can see here would be 1397, and then they times it, or add to it, I should say. They add 13.4% of that 1397. So they add from the provincial wealth, and that's what your income is. Okay? So it's kind of weird considering that taxes should technically take away from provincial wealth, and so that doesn't really actually work in reality, but nonetheless that's how it works in the game. So there you go. So your income is based on provincial wealth, and then they plus the percentage based on your slaves and your tax level. So there you go. Pretty easy way of understanding it, isn't it, huh? The next thing that I'm going to go over is I'm going to go over trade secrets. Now, one of the things that people have a hard time understanding is exactly where most lucrative trade is. It's kind of easy to understand once you understand that you can look at this little map here. Again, you just click on this little strategic overview map, and these little, you'll see the, the overview for these are the individual owners, but these little symbols here show resources. So the individual settlements are one. If you hover over one, it'll say what resources, and then it'll say a number. That's 40 units. So you'll notice that if you hover over certain ones, let's see if I can find one here. Ooh, well, we'll show the difference here. So as I upgrade my province, or the buildings, the specific capital buildings that are within that province, they will upgrade the amount of resources that are being harvested. So because this is only a level 2 building, I only get 40 timber out of this. But since the Seleucids have a level 3 or level 4 building here, they get 80 silk. So that means they have 80 units of silk that they can trade around to their trade partners and make profit on, okay? So ideally, if you're trying to up your ability to trade, both in luring people into accepting your trade and also the profitability for yourself, because exports is where you make money, not in imports. You make money on exporting things to you. Then you can go ahead and you export your wine. So that's the idea. You also make a little bit of money on tariffs from what is being imported, but again, you make a lot more on the actual return business for being able to export. One of the other things that you can look at when it comes to trade is understanding who your trade partners are. You understand exactly where all of your exports and imports are coming out of. You understand how each one is being made, and again, that's in this little trade and finance tab right here, and you just click on this one right here. It tells you what you're producing and what you're importing, and so it's kind of easy to understand when you look at the Seleucid. Like, say I'm looking at the Athenians here. I see that I get 75 out of tariffs. I have a long-term partnership, which means that they get increased bonus to diplomatic ties with me. I can see what they are offering me, and I can see what I am exporting to them. So this is something that is very helpful because it gives you an understanding of exactly what you're exporting out and exactly how many units of it that you're exporting out as well. Right? All right. Something else that's also a little bit more helpful when you look at trying to figure out how you're losing money is this little tab right here. It's really nice, a nice little summary tab. It'll tell you what your last turn is and what your current turn is, okay? So it's nice to be able to look at all these different things here and be able to find out exactly what it's costing you. So if you're having a hard time figuring out why exactly you're not making a whole lot of money and it's not really turning over very well, this is a very good place to turn to be able to find all these small things. You can find out what your taxes are, and again, you can compare, which is really nice. You can see if you're increasing or decreasing it and what sections you're increasing and decreasing in. So that's going to be very, very helpful for anyone that's kind of having a hard time finding out where they're making money or where they're losing money. The next thing is these kind of quick glance windows. So you have these 4 right here. Now they're event messages, forces, provinces, and factions. Okay, so event messages are those things that pop up in the beginning. You kind of get that big notice like, oh, you recruited something, oh, someone went to war, blah, blah, blah. These are your event messages. So if you click them off but you want to find them again, you can just click here. If you click on forces, this shows all your agents and all of your individual armies and navies. What's nice though is you'll see that I have a hero and he is embedded with the 11th Legion. So it shows the 11th Legion subcategory, my hero that's embedded with them. Okay. It shows the movement. It shows the individual troop count, which doesn't necessarily matter because some units are larger than others, but nonetheless it gives you an idea of how strong they are. It shows the general strength and their influence and all these other things, how leveled up they are. So that's also very helpful. You can always just click on them and it'll jump to them on the map, and you'll be able to get an idea of all their different places. So this is very helpful when you have a very large empire to just jump around. We also have your provinces tab here, and again you can click around to each individual one, and it should go to the capital city. I think this is a little wonky because I know this isn't the provincial capital. This is the provincial capital. But for this one it works. It goes right to the correct capitals. I don't know what that's about, but it will at least lead you to the correct province. And it'll tell you if it has to import food or if it exports food. And it'll tell you your general income from that province, okay? So this is a nice little handy tab. You can find out which ones are costing you certain things, all stuff. And again, if you just go, oh, it's unhappy, well, why is that? You can just click to it, jump to it, and you find it right over here. And you can, again, get into these little windows. So these are nice, just quick little tabs for you guys to find. And again, you have your factions. So these are all the known factions that are nearby you. Gets, again, really helpful when you have a huge empire. This is the list that I have, and I have a fairly small empire. I'm just really next to the Black Sea, and I got all this. Soon I'll be having to scroll through all my known nations or factions. But this is really helpful too because you can also hover over even people you're not trading with what your projected trade would be with them. So it kind of gives you an incentive of trying to figure out who you can trade or want to try to trade with and all that other kind of stuff. So that's always helpful. And then it'll also tell you if it's an overland trade route or if it's a sea trade route, which does help because overland trade routes are going to be limited by how many can get into your capital, which is based off of how upgrade your capital is. And then your sea trade routes are going to be limited by what kind of port you have and how many you have of them. So that's a good understanding at least of that. The next one is I think something's a little bit smaller that a lot of people haven't noticed. If you click on, let's say if I click on this one here, I own 2 other regions within this 4-region province. And I'm kind of curious what the other regions have in them. Well, if you see right here this little icon, this is something that a whole lot of people haven't noticed. This is the spy icon. If you hover over it, it shows you the gathered intelligence that you have on a province or a region within your province. So this is the Trapezos, and I can see that they have a public order of 100%. They have a wealth production. Their slave population or slave bonus is only 0.4%. Their security, and then it shows me what buildings they have in there. Alright, so this is really helpful when you're trying to figure out what your enemy has. And you can do that for ones that you have some kind of eye on, and then you also won't have it for some of the other ones because they're outside my cone of vision. So it'll have this little extra. There's no spy information, but I have spy information on these guys. So you can kind of understand what you're getting into, what kind of security they have. And that kind of leads into my last point, which I think is fairly helpful. If you click on armies or admirals, you can see here it'll tell you all these bonuses. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed, but you don't start getting major effects from skills and stats attributes until you get to 4. So 4 authority, 4 cunning, or 4 zeal, that is when you start getting bonuses. And as you up them, you'll get stronger and stronger bonuses. So if you hover over it, again, you can do this for your own generals, but this is nice when you want to see what you're going against exactly. You can see that this general, or this admiral, I suppose, or I guess this one's a general specifically because they're just transport ships, but this general has the ability to inspire and also gets +5 to the size of the commander's aura of influence. You can see that he has the ability of second wind, and he has a cooldown reduction, and then you can also see for his 5 stats, or his +5 zeal, he gets a war cry ability, and then he gets +10% melee damage and missile damage for his commander's unit. So this is kind of a helpful thing, and then you can also go down here and you can see the total of the commander's effects. So altogether, what exactly he is affecting. So this will kind of give you an understanding of how powerful your commander is, and that should help you understand when it's a good idea to assassinate. Now, assassinations with your agents beforehand in the previous Total War games was a much bigger deal because generals were not the central body to an army. Once you got rid of them, then they just became run by the next head officer, but they didn't have the same attributes that a general would have. It would just be a normal regiment of troops, or whatever you want to call a unit of troops that would be considered your general, and they wouldn't have the same kind of aura or special abilities. So in this game, when you assassinate, you want it to be effective, because if you assassinate a low general, it doesn't really matter, because they're just going to be replaced with another low general. So this is a guy that clearly has a lot of effect, clearly has a lot of influence on his troops, and so if I feel like he might be a threat to me, then I might want to assassinate him, and that would be much better off. Again, this will also tell you what stance they're in, because he is in forced march, or I guess it would be forced row. I don't know what you want to call it. It tells me what kind of bonuses he had, minus 25 to the line of sight, and all that other kind of stuff. So it's always very helpful for you. Double time, that's what it's called. So shows you his stance and all the forces effects that are on top of it. It's like that. So that's, again, also very, very helpful information. It's little things in this game. This isn't a game that you want to rush. You kind of want to understand. And I guess there's one last thing I'd like to touch on. A lot of you guys have been struggling when it comes to technology. And you've been asking for a technology guide. There's not a whole lot I can say unless I go into each individual faction and try to break down their technology trees. I don't feel like that's necessary. I really feel like for the most part you guys can figure this out on your own. I know that it's kind of confusing, but there is a little bit of advice that I can give you here when you're choosing different factions. Well, first off, if you look at the individual trees, each one of these trees has different numbers above them, okay? And each one of them has different bonuses. So as you research all of the technologies within this branch, if you hover over it, it'll say Management 1. To unlock the following effects, research technologies below. So if I research all three technologies, I will get +3 replenishment rate to all armies and fleets. Now that doesn't matter where they are. This is going to give me +3 replenishment rate, okay? And then if I were to do 2, it gives me +5, and if I get to Management 3, it gives me +7. Now, I have no idea if that stacks. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I haven't experimented with this yet, so don't ask me. If you do have the answer to that, feel free to comment below, please. And everybody, let's go ahead and like that comment up to the top so people can figure that out. But it is, and it does change per faction. I know that these bonuses up top, they do change per faction. I'm sure they're probably pretty similar, but they do change per faction. And again, so this is a different tech tree. This is the tactics tech tree, so I get movement range increases up to the top, and then I get siege cost up to the top in all provinces, and I get them up, and up. Okay, so this is kind of nice. If you're struggling with certain things like food and corruption, because this one's corruption, then maybe you want to just, I'd like to lower corruption. It's not just the individual rates, because if you look here, let's see, there's one of them. This one right here will help reduce 5% to corruption, but if I just research this next one for 3 turns, I'll also get another 5% to corruption reduction. So that's going to be very helpful for a lot of you people who have been saying corruption's broken and unbalanced in the game. Not true, not true. There's plenty of stuff that you can use against that. You have agents abilities in your nobles or your dignitaries or whatever you want to call it that you can use to help out against these things. So again, there's plenty of stuff to go in there. If you have a hard time understanding where you want to go, where you want to plan technology wise, I'll give you a little bit of a hint. Going into the Encyclopedia, one of the first things that I would totally tell you guys to do is find, where's it at? Factions, and say you're playing as the Romans, okay? So I'm playing as the Romans, and I want to understand where I should take my army. I really want to focus on infantry. I'm not a huge cavalry guy. I just want to bludgeon people to death. Well, look at the specialist units. Now, this isn't foolproof. This is just a way of suggesting for you new players out there what to look at. So if you hover over it, you can see the Praetorian Guard, you can see the auxiliary cavalry, and you can see gladiators. So go ahead and just click on it. Click on the Praetorian Guard, and it'll tell you what the requirements are. You have to be Roman, and you have to have the Legion Barracks. It tells you all the bonuses, and this is not the easiest to use Encyclopedia, but if you just keep clicking, you'll find what you need. So Legion Barracks, and what it'll do is it'll tell you, first thing you have to have in your chain is a Field of Mars. You have to have the Manipular Barracks, and it'll tell you all the way up, and it'll have yours that you need for that specific unit highlighted in yellow around it, and it'll say your Legion Barracks, okay? And then, of course, as you go down, it'll tell you what technologies you need, because it'll say tech right here. It'll say the tech building that you require, cohort organization, and you can just, again, you just go down here, and if I can just get it, then you'll click, and you can just go up and up and up as you want. So then when you go back to your tech trees, you can understand, oh, I want to go up this certain technology because I want to get that certain unit. So I hope that helps you guys plan a little bit easier out. Again, understanding your faction's focus is helpful, so you can use this little panel here. Again, it's found right here in the middle. Just understanding your faction and what its bonuses are, what your family bonuses are, and all that kind of stuff. That's going to help you plan out And just experiment. Feel free to restart your campaigns, especially if you're a newer player and stuff like that. And when you're learning the game, don't feel stuck into something. Play it to your enjoyment. If you have a lot of stuff that you regret that you wish you can play better, just restart it. Who cares? You have all the time in the world. It's a game, for God's sakes. Have fun with it. So, anyways, I hope that really I feel like that touches up on like really the last of the province management and like the campaign map kind of stuff. If there's any other questions you guys have, feel free to shoot it to me. I'm answering a lot of these different questions in my Let's Play, so go ahead and check up on that series. I'm trying to make it one of those kind of fill in the blank kind of series, so it's not just me playing the game. I'm trying to answer questions, so feel free to drop them down here, drop them in the Let's Play comments, and let me know. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate your guys' viewership, and I'll see you guys next time.